three men who were sent to jail after an anti-fracking protest in Lancashire last summer have been freed by the Court of Appeal. The judge said their 15 and 16-month sentences were excessive. Simon Blevins, Richard Roberts and Rich Loiseau became the first environmental protesters to be sent to prison for decades after they climbed on lorries at the fracking site in Lancashire. The controversial process was started there on Monday. Our correspondent Claire Marshall was in court.
Out after 21 days in Preston prison, Rich Loiseau, Simon Blevins and Richard Roberts. According to the Lord Chief Justice, they should never have been jailed.
Today's decision affirms that when people peacefully break the law out of a moral obligation to prevent the expansion of fossil fuel industries, they should not be sent to prison.
In London, to hear the appeal verdict, more family and friends.
Freedom, give me that freedom, give me that freedom, freedom, freedom.
What are you going to tell him to do in the future?
To carry on doing what he believes in, because he's right.
This is where it started. Watch the police officer. When she's not looking, Simon Blevins seizes the opportunity. Richard Roberts was already on top of another truck. All in all, 7 heavy goods vehicles heading for the Quadrilla site were stopped by the men. They stayed up there for 3 days. They were found guilty of causing a public nuisance, and they were sentenced to 15 and 16 months in prison. Today, the Court of Appeal said this was wrong.
In our judgment, the appropriate sentence, which should have been imposed on the 26th of September, was a community order with a significant requirement of unpaid work.
This wasn't a case about fracking, and that was said in court. It was, in effect, a case about the right to protest. If you disagree with the government, or a law, or a company, how far can you go?
Political protest takes many forms. Without the suffragettes, women wouldn't have the vote. Twyford Down delayed the extension of the M3. In court, the judge referred to the need to take into account the motives of those protesting. This is the judge that originally sent the men to prison. Questions have since been raised about Judge Oldham's close family links to the offshore oil and gas industry and his sister's vocal support for fracking.
But there's a real concern with this, that in fact those connections should have been disclosed in this case, and that there might be a possible appeal. So we're considering looking at the conviction. The court today said it couldn't look at it any further because it's all too late.
Meanwhile, fracking started in Lancashire this week and the protests go on. Claire Marshall, BBC News at the High Court in London.